As the portal cycle continues to turn, it's important to keep in mind patience. Let Will Wade cook.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our Monday show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can sign up today and get $200 back in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Head on over to FanDuel.com in order to get started. Happy Monday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, as we know, the transfer portal opened last Monday, so you're seeing more and more names hit the portal. Some guys are already finding their landing spot. A lot of those are often having the do not contact tag, but I've seen some, impatience from NC State fans. They want to know, who is Will Wade going after? When are we going to start to see these guys land at NC State? How soon should we expect a roster to begin to formulate for the Wolfpack? I said this last week. I'll say it again now. It's going to take a minute. It's going to take some time. Will Wade said in his press conference and his media availability, his first priority is to get his staff assembled, which he has been doing. We'll talk more about that on Tuesday's show. But after the staff is assembled, he gave that target date basically around the Final Four and thereafter. Then you're going to start to see some names roll in. Kenton, are you worried at all that, the portal's been open for a week and NC State has not made any moves yet?
In the words of Sada Baby, it's going to take a little while, okay? You can't just rush these types of things. And even if we go back to the Keats era, right, some of our best gets were not early on in the process. I remember famously Levi Watkins putting up the dates of when we landed some of the biggest and most influential, most important pieces of the Final Four run. I don't think a single one of them was before, April? I don't think a single one of them was before the month of April was over. So I look back at that and I say to myself, there's plenty of talent. There is plenty of talent. And I will say this, college basketball, more than any other sport, and I mean it, this is something by far. I have seen this bear out with my own two eyes. College basketball, more than any other sport, is, of all the big three or four, the revenue-generating sports, it is the one where coaching matters the most. That's just the fact of the matter, okay? You can have the greatest base running coaches there ever was. If you cannot beat that catcher, you just can't. You could have the greatest offensive mind there ever was. Guess what? When it's time to get a combo block on that three technique, you can rise to the linebacker. If you can't do it, you can't do it. But there's something about coaching in college basketball that we have consistently seen teams play absolutely out of their minds if the right coach is in place. So I'm not worried about the talent in year one. And even beyond that, I'm definitely not worried about the talent in week one. I mean, the shot, we didn't even got rid of the new car smell on Will Wade yet. I'm joking, but you get the point. You know what I mean? Like this is still extremely new. And like Grayson alluded to earlier, the staff is not 100% set at the moment. At the time of recording this, the staff is still growing. So to expect the staff to still be growing, but the roster to be permanent and fixed, or to expect us to be making meaningful waves already, it's a little out there. And again, meaningful waves don't always come in the form of commitments. I'm telling y'all this as a professional recruiter. The biggest candidate that I've ever landed, it took months to get that guy from the place that I got him from. It was from a really big company whose name I will not say on air, but it took months of work to get him. It wasn't just a, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. I think you should join us. It wasn't that. So, again, let Will Wade cook. Give him some time. You can't hope for an oxtail worth of blessing in hot dog time. It don't work like that.
Portal opened on Monday, March 24th, but it doesn't close until April the 22nd. So there's still like 2 to 3 more weeks for guys to enter their name into the portal. And of course, what that means is you're going to see another wave of influential names to enter the portal. Just because they didn't enter in the first week and a half Doesn't mean they're not going to on, say, I don't know, April 21st. There's plenty of time for all of this to get worked out. And to the point of what we were talking about the end of last week, I would much rather have the infrastructure in place before you go out and get the players. If you don't have your blueprint set to the exact way that you want it, the whole thing's going to be thrown out of whack if you're, chasing XYZ player this way with this amount of money and you don't have the staff to coach him up right once he gets here. Allow Will Wade to come in, get his guys into his system, and then build up from there. I promise to all NC State fans, we're not behind the 8 ball. We're not chasing other teams in terms of recruiting right now. We are doing exactly what we need to be doing, which is shoring up the staff first. And the second point, to what Kenton was talking about, I do remember Levi Watkins kind of putting out those dates of some of the players that have been committed previously. So I'll go ahead and tell you. For example, DJ Horn, April the 17th. Jarkel Joyner, April the 20th. DJ Burns didn't commit to NC State until May of 2022. There's still plenty of time. All the players are not getting taken up by Louisville or Miami or Alabama or whatever. We're doing just fine. And what I will tell you, though, is NC State is having a lot of interest in some of these names in the portal. I've seen NC State connected to a lot of players, putting out, the list of teams that they've heard from since entering the portal. And that's a good spot to be. You want NC State to be casting a wide net in terms of the type they're looking for and the level of which basketball they've been playing, whether it's JUCO or mid-major or D1, P4 basketball. I've seen NC State connected to all 3 of those levels, and that is a good thing. You want them to, touch and feel basically everywhere. So they're on pace for that. I've also seen there's some rumors that Will Wade was at the Flying Biscuit with Elliot Cadeau over the weekend. That was not Elliot Cadeau.
Y'all stop playing. Don't even play like that. Don't Wolfpack Nation, I'm talking to you. Don't play like Pat Perry. Stop telling these people. Stop it. Knock it off, okay? You can use your powers for good. Don't you, in the words of the late great Michael Clark Duncan, don't you wish that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't you wish no Cadeau on me. I'm sorry.
It just kind of speaks to silly season, as it's often referred to, where you see people telling each other, you see the fake parody accounts, and you can Photoshop basically anything nowadays, but don't get caught up in one picture and then run with the narrative. No, it wasn't Elliot Cadeau, but I will tell you who it was. It was Matthew Abel, who is a 4-star / 5-star recruit, depending on the site you use. Previously committed to Miami, decommitted before the end of the regular season. That's a top 30 player in the high school ranks coming into next year. Will Wade getting him to Flying Biscuit of all places in Cameron Village, it's a good spot to be, because this is a kid that picked up a lot of high-level interest from a ton of, some blue blood programs as well. If Will Wade can land a flip like that one, you're certainly on the right track. So again, don't freak out. Don't get over your skis. Don't think that NC State is behind the 8 ball here. Kind of leads me into my next part of this short conversation here, Kenton. If you are Will Wade, hypothetically, and this is very subjective, I might add, how would you look to start building your roster? Like, for example, would you want to shore up your front court first or your back court first? Where would you put your hypothetical investments into? Because you got to figure the first players that you're landing out of the portal are going to be your top targets. Those are the guys that you want more than anything else, because then you can build out the roster from there. Would you look to more front court based or back court based?
Well, before I answer that, Grayson, I think there's something interesting there. You said a freshman 5-star. Didn't Will Wade previously say he was looking to get one freshman showstopper in each class?
Correct.
Shows may be preparing to take something beyond the pause there. Who knows? But if I was Will Wade, front court or back court, neither. Best player available.
Good answer.
Best player available. I've never been a positional value guy, and shout out to the GM of my Detroit Lions, Brad Holmes. He continues to show people why being a positional value guy is stupid. You just pick the best player available. I can understand if NC State was in a position to say either their front court or our back court is extremely like, hey, we got it locked up. We really do not need a stronger front court. We just need some guards. Or we really don't need guards. We just need wings who can shoot. Or this team has how many people on scholarship at the moment, including the incoming freshmen? 3?
I think 3, maybe 4.
4. Let's go with 4 to be generous. That means you have 11 slots to fill. Front court, back court, wing, midcourt, I don't care. Okay? I don't care where you want to put it. I want the best players available, however they come to you, and then you build around those best players.
Yeah, that's a perfect answer, and that's the exact answer I was setting you up to give. It doesn't matter which way he wants to build this out first. The most important part is that he's going to build the roster on his terms. Will Wade is not looking around on Twitter and saying, oh, South Carolina's landing guards from North Dakota and, Louisville's picking up guys already. I'm behind. No. Will Wade is going to do this the way that Will Wade wants to do it, and that's by assuring his staff first and then getting into the portal second. So again, don't freak out. Don't think that NC State is falling behind. They're right where we need to be, and that is with Will Wade at the helm. That's the most important part of this. He's going to get in the portal here very shortly. I'd say probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Because typically, also when you look at the dates I just gave you for players of past, most of the commitments are not even coming until mid to late April, and they're on out after. Because a lot of the players, they're not even in the portal yet. And then you have to factor in official visits, and you're picking up what I'm putting down here. It's going to take some time. So Will Wade is at work. That is the most important part of this. His staff is coming first. Players are coming second. Coming up next, we're going to touch on the end of the women's basketball season. Came to a very sour end in the Sweet 16. More on what happened after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first Monday sponsor is FanDuel. March Madness is still going on, and FanDuel's giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get up to $200 back in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories. Actually, there's only one seeds left at this point, and even who's going to cut down the nets in San Antonio. With the tournament finishing up this coming weekend, there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is super easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around. Join up on FanDuel.com today and get in on the action before the Final Four rolls around this coming weekend. Only on FanDuel. Middle portion of our Monday show, recapping the women's basketball game, the Sweet 16 loss to LSU from Friday evening, an 80-73 loss to the LSU Tigers. I'm not so upset about the result in that the season is now over. I think there's probably still meat on the bone, and this team certainly could have advanced further, but I'm a lot more frustrated in how this game got away from them in the late stages. I believe the stat was LSU went on a 12-2 run in the waning minutes to finish out this game. Kenton, how disappointing of a loss is this?
I knew that LSU was a terrible matchup. And by the way, for all the people who said, I didn't talk about Flau'jae Johnson enough, do you see why? I knew, NC State has a stopper for her. They did not, however, have a stopper for Aneesah Morrow.
Yeah. And
that, to me, is why this loss is a lot less disappointing than it would have been otherwise. Because I knew, front court-wise, all week, I said this team just has to hold serve in the front court. They don't have to dominate. They don't even have to win the battle. Just hold serve. Well, if we go front court for front court here, it's not really close. Between Aneesah Morrow and Samaya Smith, you're looking at a grand total of 51 points and 30 rebounds. That's it. That's the whole deal right there. Our leading rebounder all year, Madison Hayes, 3 rebounds. Our leading rebounder in this game was Maddie Cox, 7 rebounds. Our de facto center until the trigger, 5 rebounds. And I don't even want to get to the scoring part of it because, again, we were just thoroughly outplayed in the front court. And the same way that we felt early in the season, damn, you really feel Weimar's absence here. You really feel her absence here. Same thing came back to bite you at the end. That's ultimately what came back and happened here. And, it's a shame that our guards didn't have spectacular banner games outside of Zoe Brooks and Zam Jones. But, you look at this thing and you say to yourself, that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. And this is why you would want that front court to be better so that you could afford to have an off night from one group or the other. That's how championship teams are built. Championship teams are not built on you got to be a star every single night or else. Not in the college game, at least, because in the NCAA tournament, it's single elimination. In the W and in the NBA, you get multiple games to where even if you have an off night on this one, it's all right. You'll be back in 2 days. It's okay. 2 days after that, you got another game. Here, it's one time. So you need to be a good enough team that even when, for example, when Duke men's basketball took on Arizona and they decided to run and gun with Arizona for whatever reason, right? They were good enough to overcome that because they said, you know what? We had, or not they said, but they had the talent that even though they're not playing their traditional style of game, they could still figure it out and win. And then the next game, they got back to what they do and then and obliterated them. That's what this team needed. They needed that talent that was going to, in the front court, that was going to give the guards, hey, if y'all are not hot tonight, it's okay. We got you. We will hold serve. We will not get dominated to the point where you need to be super hot. And again, even in saying that, that's not a knock on Trigger or Lauren Owu and company. It really isn't. It's just the reality of what happened because LSU has some fantastic bigs. And I said that early. If they get past Florida State, that's going to be a tough matchup because again, our front court has not, they just haven't been great in big moments. So this was another case of the same things that you saw that got you there, same things that'll get you knocked out.
Yeah, the exact worries we had coming into this game at the end of last week, and that the physicality that LSU's front court had, Tilda Trigger was going to have to play one of the best games she's played all year. Didn't happen. Did not get a very good effort really at all out of Tilda Trigger. Just a rough day for the NC State front court, and you paid the price for it. Anissa Morrow is a phenomenal player. She went for 30 and 19. And anytime you give up that much on the glass and offensively, I mean, it's going to be tough sledding. To Kenton's point about the rebounding, LSU had 18 rebounds just on the offensive glass. 18 offensive rebounds. We only had 36 total for the game. They had half in just offensive rebounds.
Let me hit you with something even worse than that. LSU's front court, in terms of their three starters, out-rebounded NC State by themselves.
Exactly.
38 to 36. Just their front court. If not a single guard touched the ball, if not a single player that was coming from the bench got a single rebound, just those three alone, they got more rebounds than NC State. So that kind of tells you. That's the story of the game, And again, I don't want that to be the story of the season because this was a fantastic season. You go undefeated at home, including a win against the number one team in the nation. You win an ACC championship. You win an ACC regular season championship. You get to the ACC tournament championship. You get back to the Sweet 16 6 times in 7 years. There is so much to be proud of with this team. With that being said, Wes Moore, get you some bigs in that portal. Get you some bigs in that portal. Or if there are any bigs in the country, top bigs that are thinking, where should I go? There's a place. They got some minutes for you. You can get down there and muck it up. You can get down there and get you some boards. There's a place that I know of that you're guaranteed a Sweet 16 pretty much. That, it's disappointing. It hurts to see those three seniors go out like that. But at the end of the day, as my former defensive coordinator, Jermaine Crowell, would always say, everybody's seniors are going to be crying at the end of the season. Only one group of seniors get to cry tears of joy.
I think the toughest part about the loss, like I kind of said there, is despite the discrepancy in rebounding and despite giving up so much to the LSU front court, NC State still had a lead with less than 2 minutes left to play in this game, and they just could not find a way to close it out. And so on that note, it kind of is an encapsulation of everything we had worries about for the entirety of the season. Yes, the NC State guard play can be elite, but can they be elite enough to carry the team when the front court is lackluster as much as they were? The answer in this one was obviously no. If you were able to be more aggressive on the boards and take a couple better shots in this game, you probably win. Because think about this. This is a game where Isaiah James only took 11 total shots. You kind of feel like you're leaving some ammo in the clip there. Only 11 from Isaiah James and only hitting 3 of those. Not exactly that efficient of a day. It just felt like you left so much on the table. And I think that is the most sour way that this kind of plays out for this team, and especially the seniors, like you mentioned. Isaiah James, Sanaya Rivers, and Maddie Hayes, 3 pillars of this program, and they will always be remembered for what they poured into this program over the course of the last 3 to 4 years. The overwhelming success that has been NC State women's basketball, it has been in large part because of their contributions. And to see them go out in this fashion, it's very disappointing. And, kind of what I was saying, to go out in the Sweet 16 with that amount of talent, it feels like a little bit of a failure. But LSU is a great team. Obviously, they outplayed us in the very end. And a lot of times the team that wants it more at the very end is going to be the team that walks away with it. So unfortunately, LSU was that team. NC State just kind of ran out of gas in the Sweet 16. Certainly, to Kenton's point there's going to be some shots. There's going to be some minutes available for some big-time players for Westmore to get out of the portal. You're obviously looking for Zam Jones and Zoe Brooks to level up and lead this team when you're looking ahead and talking about next year. But the front court for NC State is most certainly going to have to be shored up because you saw where it lacked and really hurt you at very important times of this season. So it's tough to see them go out in this way. I think they probably could have beaten LSU and moved on to play UCLA, but I mean, who's to say they wouldn't have had even more struggles against the UCLA front court than they did with LSU. So tough way to go out, but it doesn't put a damper on the light that this program has been for NC State. And, Westmore continues to be one of the greatest leaders for NC State athletics in the last, decade plus. And the amount of success this program has had, a loss like this one doesn't dampen it, but it only makes you hungry for more.
You talk about the standard being the standard and not just, dumb luck.
Yeah.
With all due respect, we had 2 Final Four runs. One coach is no longer our coach. The other coach just getting eliminated from the Sweet 16, and his seat is cold as ice. That seat, there is no warmth to it whatsoever. He can be a Wolfpack lifer if he wants to Westmore. What's the difference? And again, this is not to trash Coach Keys at all, because we are not bitter exes on this show. That's like, we're terrible. But the reality of this is 6 times in the last 7 years, you were one of the last 16 teams playing. Multiple times in the last 6 years, you've been one of the last 8 teams playing. Last year, you were one of the last 4 teams playing. So this team is built for sustainable long-term success. And I'm very intrigued to see the tweaks that happen to, make this team successful next year.
State drops to the LSU Tigers in the Sweet 16 of Women's March Madness. Certainly some regrouping and some repicking up of the pieces to do here in the offseason, but still a very bright future for Westmore and the Women's Wolfpack. Coming up next, there was another big-time visitor on campus over the weekend, some guy named Rivers. Y'all ever heard of him before? We'll discuss more on this after a quick word from our sponsors.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Last couple of minutes of our Monday show. NC State also had another big-name visitor over this past weekend. Gunnar Rivers, son of some guy named Philip Rivers, were at NC State, attended a NC State football spring practice in Carter Finley. There were several pictures floating around the internet of that. They were real. That is not a deep fake picture like some believe the Elliot Cadeau picture was not. No, that was actually Philip Rivers, and it was, most importantly, his son Gunnar. This is a big deal, and we've talked about this before. We've done episodes on this exact topic before, but we also talked about in the past that Gunnar Rivers' stock was going to continue to rise, and not just because of his name and not just because of who his daddy is. He's a really good recruit. We're talking, this is a consensus 4-star quarterback. He's going to be on the brink of touching that 5th star here in the coming months. You're going to see schools like Alabama and Auburn and probably like Tennessee. The whole list of SEC schools are going to get involved. And so for NC State, obviously, you're going to have to play the hometown string card here with his old man. You're going to have to get them to practice, basically give them the keys to the kingdom. You could run your own legacy here at NC State. Your dad is an all-time legend. We'd love nothing more for you to come here with your own pen and paper and write your own story. It's time. You got to bring out every bell, every whistle, every red carpet. This is the can't-miss recruit of a generation for NC State. Getting him on campus is certainly a step in the right direction.
Even if he was mid and he was a Nepo baby, Phillip Rivers has more sons than Father Abraham. At least one of them would have to have some
One of
talent.
them's going to hit.
So, you offer all of them. You get all of the Rivers bloodline. In the words of 4X, don't get one. Get all of them out the way, okay? No, but seriously, Gunner is a fantastic quarterback. I mean, it's not just the NFL bloodlines. He really can do a vast majority of things that any system, especially what we run here, would demand a quarterback do. So it would make sense to have him on campus, even if his dad wasn't Phillip Rivers. His dad being Phillip Rivers adds an extra layer to you go get them damn legacy recruits. You don't play around. You don't mess around. You don't give them room to breathe. Every time he looks up, you should be there saying, hey, man, we love you, Raleigh. Hey, this ain't about walking in your dad's footsteps. They ain't been here for 20 years. Come write your own thing. Come do your own thing, man. Come be special in your own way. You saw how Miles Morales always kept his Jordans untied because he's Spider-Man, but not. But he's almost Spider-Man, but he's not, right? Same thing. Same, but different. Gunner, come on, man. Come do the thing. That this staff paying attention to that and being on top of that is very important. And like I said, porque no lo dos, right? Why not both in terms of, is all the money going to basketball? No. I have on good authority. Football is being taken care of. This is not a situation where, basketball is just getting unlimited resources and they're looking at the door and like, hey, figure it out with what's left.
Yeah, you threw me the perfect alley-oop here because that's exactly where I was taking this conversation next. On the topic of, is NC State leaning more heavily toward basketball or is it going to be balanced with football? I think it becomes very important when you have a legacy recruit like Gunner Rivers coming down the pipeline. Not so much because he's going to require, an infinite amount of money in NIL money, but you're going to need your program to be very serious if you want to land a kid like Gunner Rivers. If he's going to be one of the top recruits in the country, more than likely he's going to want to play for a top team, or at least a team that has full commitment into making themselves into a top team. He's going to want to play with elite talent around him so he doesn't have to basically bring up the entire ceiling and the floor of a program by himself. It's going to take a full investment into football, very much like you're seeing with basketball. And whether that's if Coach Jordan will still be here or not, the full commitment still has to be there into the program because Gunner Rivers is a 2027 quarterback, so there's still 2 more years on this timeline. But I'd have to imagine he's going to be nearing his college decision here in the next, maybe like a year-ish, probably his junior year. He's going to be making that decision. So NC State, they have to get very serious very quickly. And revenue sharing, of course, will help with that. But the same effort you're seeing pouring into the basketball program, if you want to land a Gunner Rivers, you got to find a way to balance that out and keep both teams afloat here. Because, this is the can't-miss recruit of a generation for NC State football. Very excited to see him on campus. Obviously, you want him to have that mutual interest. You don't want to be chasing after a guy that has no interest in playing for NC State and he's just looking at, LSU or Alabama, whatever. Keep in mind, he's coming out of the state of Alabama, so you'd have to imagine the tide can be on him. A top quarterback in the country, potentially coming to NC State, and then you tie back in all his family ties, being that his old man is, the NC State quarterback. Can't miss. NC State needs to stay hot on this trail, not just now, not just in the near future, but consistently. And you certainly expect that this staff will do nothing less than give him their full undivided attention. That will do it for us here on Monday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button, drop your comments in the comment box. Tell us your thoughts on Will Wade's opening philosophies for building a roster, assuring the staff first before getting into the portal second, and also tell us how you would construct the roster. Would you go after the front court first, the back court first, or does it not matter? Because it doesn't. Tell us your thoughts on the women's basketball loss in the Sweet 16 and what that means for the future of the program. And tell us your thoughts about Gunner and Phillip Rivers being in attendance in Raleigh over this past weekend. Mash that subscribe button if you have not already. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Tuesday for more. And until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.